Hi, today I'm going to show you how to put together the Wheelin card. This is a pretty simple card. It opens up from the front like this. That's what a finished card looks like. A little bit different. So first what I like to do is piece together the tires. And I just use a little zig glue. I kind of skipped ahead here. But whatever you use, you can use vinyl as well. That would work well for layering. Because I know nowadays a lot of people have vinyl. But you just have to make sure that you line the edges up of the panels together. Make sure that back panel lines up to that front cutout panel. And this is a thick cardstock, AC cardstock, which I use for a lot of my design, majority of what I make. Had a little piece left over here. And it cut out beautifully. But if you are more comfortable with it, vinyl will work too. It's just, you just have to be careful when you place it down to line up the actual panel. So right here, I just, in case you do overlap or you can see the edge, I don't like to see the edge of that gray, so I just inked the edges. And then we're just going to match up, place those tires on the background mat. That's the main card portion. As you saw earlier, it's not a traditional card, so it doesn't open up from the top or side. It kind of opens up from the bottom in the front. So just a little bit of a different take on it. Just having trouble with my glue. I left the lid off of it long enough so it dried. My handy dandy little pin that I keep nearby for that purpose. So you see it just sits right on that where it's shaped. Don't do that either. Fortunately, I know it's going to be covered, so I wasn't too worried about it, but I'd have to start over if it didn't, because that glue makes a mark. Then here you have the option of having this insert. I had put written with a pen Happy Father's Day using my machine. But you don't need to use that. You could omit it. It's just an option. You could put it on without it and just add a sentiment later or nothing. It's up to you. But for this card, the first card I did, I didn't use this sentiment. I didn't use this panel at all. But now we're going to attach that inner panel. And that panel is slightly smaller, so it won't overlap on the edge. So you kind of have to center it best you can. Make sure it's on there. And you'll have a little edge around there. Don't worry if it's not really strong. Just make sure it's set a little bit, because you'll glue it again when you're gluing it to this background. So just make sure you put the tires on first, and then the next step is this panel, because we want it to overlap the tires. And again, my glue, when I don't use it, sometimes it quick dries right at the tip. It's hard to get out. So make sure you don't use too much glue for your cardstock. I know how much I can use without it bleeding through. And then when you apply it, add it to the background, just make sure it's lined up with that top edge. Okay, what I'm doing is I keep on wiping off some dry flakes. I had some dried glue on my mat. Anyways, the next thing we're going to do is add that front flap, and you see that I folded it at the tab score line. And so there's a little cut in that back panel. You want to align the tab fold just slightly above it and center it. So we're going to add glue to the tab as shown. And then you're going to carefully make sure it's centered, and that it's just slightly above that cut line, so you won't be able to see that cut line when it's glued. And then just go ahead and apply pressure there. So that is our card opening. So that's where your sentiment will go. That's actually the inside of the card. So you can add this insert. And then you could add your little personal message inside. What's nice is that it hides the tab as well, so it looks nice and clean when it's closed and open. So next we have the grill. We're just going to glue that top grill panel onto the back panel. Just be careful with your glue. I was a little bit liberal, so it did leak in one little area for me. You could use the Zig glue too. I just thought I could do it well without I have a fine tip applicator, but I didn't use it this time. But that would be also another option for those thin lines in between. And then we'll add the little fenders. So that's just a fender that goes above the tires, and it lines up with the back panel fender shape. So you see I flip it over to make sure it's the right shape. And I'm using double-sided foam tape just to give it a little pop-up element, and the same thing with the side mirrors. Do that for a little bit of extra dimension. Then we'll go ahead and add the grill. You want to line it up so the bottom corners line up with those little rounded corners on the bottom of that panel. And be careful with your glue, because the way that I'm doing it right here, if you have too much glue on the edge, it could get on to the inside of the card. So just make sure your glue on the back of this is not too close to the edges, which is a general tip anyways. And then we'll go ahead and add the front headlights using the Pick Me Up tool. I like to put the glue on the actual card, just not very big. I put probably a little bit too much on that one, so it doesn't leak out the sides. You don't need much. I'm just an over gluer. Then we're going to add the bumper, and you're only going to glue it to that little bottom piece in the middle. So you only want adhesive on the middle, and you're going to line it up. It helps you line it up. That's why I kept that shape down there. Just know you only have to put glue in the middle though. And then you can add these little extra lights on the bumper wherever you want. Well, you don't have to have them either. It's up to you. Or you could do rhinestones. I used all paper on this just to show you what it looked like with all paper. But I thought it would be fun maybe with some rhinestone lights. You just have to be careful when you're mailing it via the postal service, because it gets a little bulky. But if you're just giving it and handing it to somebody in person, I always like some 3D dimensions. So I just think it's more fun. And again, I add glue to the card and then use my Pick Me Up tool to place the lights. So that's it. So you could add whatever you'd want to it, and then your inside sentiment. And I think it'd be fun for a guy gift or Father's Day, and I hope you enjoyed the project. Thank you so much for watching.